All right, what's up, fellas? We're back at it again. Gonna give you another tips and tricks video. So, forgive my voice. Got stopped up sinuses. It's that time of year and everything like that. So, let's talk about another issue we may run into here in the winter. Christmas is coming up. Everybody's gonna get, hopefully, some new fishing reels, some new fishing tackle, stuff like that. So, maybe you're just getting into angling. You get a new bait caster. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to set it up. Put good fresh line on it, you go out in the yard, what's the first thing you do? Backlash. Well, what causes that? Okay, well, the reel's not set up. Most of the time, new line probably does it a lot, but if you're brand new to it and you just pick the reel up out of the box and you went outside and you tried to cast it in your yard to try it out, chances are you're going to backlash. Or you're going to have your thumb on it so tight, it's not going to go anywhere. So there's two different ways that most reels can be set up. You've got your main brake over here, which is a friction-based brake. Literally, you screw it in, it goes up against the spool, it touches it, you screw it out, lets more pressure off, spins more freely. Then you've got your secondary brake over here. Now these brakes are the ones that can be tricky. Sometimes it's as easy as turning the knob, sometimes it's not. So we'll break down each different types. I've got, 5 or 6 different types of reels up there. I tried to get as many brands and different variations of brakes that I could. So we'll step through each one of them pretty quick and we'll go from there. So first of all, let's just break it down simple so that if maybe you're just looking for something quick, you can get in this video, get out, and go do what you need to do. If you're making a cast and it's backlashing as soon as you cast it, right off the bat, need to adjust your friction brake here. So tighten it down a little bit and hopefully it should be good. What's a good rule of thumb for that? You tighten this one down to where when you click it, you don't have to have your thumb on there and it just your bait comes out the end of the rod real slow falling down. When it hits, it shouldn't let any extra line off. It should just stop. All right, well, if you're backlashing at the back of your cast, so you made the cast, it's going, and then it starts to bird nest on you, that's your centrifugal brakes over here, or your magnetics. So if you're in the middle, you might want to do a combination of the two, but general rule of thumb, as soon as you pick one up out of the box, if you're not very good at tuning your reel, lock this one all the way down to the max, turn this to where your lure is just barely coming off of the tip of the rod when you got it on there. Now, obviously, once you get it set up with one lure, you swap to a heavier or lighter lure, it's not going to be the same. You're going to have to constantly be playing with it, especially if you've got one reel that you're planning on doing everything with, which most anglers are. Not everybody's fortunate enough to have 13 or 14 or 15, 17, 18, 150 reels. So they can have every one of them set up. But in any case, due to weather, climate, anything like that, you're still going to need to do some fine tuning out on the water with it. So, you'll just have to kind of pick the feel up as you go along. But let's go ahead and jump into these and talk about what I think is the most simple versus the hardest ones to set up. So, obviously the most simple is your old Abus, the Ambassador. It's just got the friction brake over here. You just screw it in to where it needs to go, get it set, make it to where when it casts it doesn't backlash. So you just wind it in, wind it out till it's right. That's the easiest one to set up. That's all there is to it. Coming back down the line next, a little more expensive reel, but it kind of goes all the way down their line, the Diawa Tatula. This is a CT Type R. So obviously, again, friction brake on this side. And if you look over here, it's just got a dial. And why do I like this one? It's got 20 positions on it. If it'll focus. So it's got 20 different positions. There's no way to take this side plate off. I don't know if Diawa did that because they don't want you off in their stuff, messing it up any worse. But you just crank the dial. It works great for me. This is my reel I actually use for skipping jigs. I love this reel. It's got the TWS system in it, but this is not a reel review. This is talking about how to set one up. So again, turn your dial, set your magnetic brake on the side. I'm pretty sure these are magnetic. I'm not 100% right off the bat. So, and in saying that, what's magnetic, what's centrifugal? We're about to get into that with these two right here. So this is a Team Lews. This is just a cheap little Mark Rose edition, but it's one that I had that was off rod, and I didn't feel like pulling another one. So you've obviously got your dial over here, and you've got your centrifugal. Well, what does that dial do? When we turn the dial, what's it doing on the inside? Some people want to know that. So some of them just have a little clip that you pull out right here. Some of them, like this one, have a screw. So you unscrew this, it turns that bar right there, and it comes out just like that. Once it's out, you just take this side plate right here, and it either turns up or down, different ones, different designs. You see that, how it's all turned up on the side now? It was like this, and now it's like this. All right, and that side plate comes off. And what you got in there is magnets. And it literally is doing what it sounds like it's doing, is it's interacting with that spool right there. When you turn that dial, all you're doing is moving those magnets further away or closer to it. It's called magnetic braking. That's all it's doing. To put it back on, make sure your spool's seated real good. Put it in there, give it a turn, screw it back down. When you're doing this, if you're taking yours apart to clean them or anything like that, make sure the line does not get over the edge of the spool off in there, because it will mess it up something bad, or you'll think the reel's broke, and it's just awful. So that's magnetic braking. Then there's a different type, which in my mind is a little more difficult to set up. And by the way, I've got these set up from what I think is simplest to hardest to set up. So this next one's an old Abu. It's one I gave my dad. It's a Revo S. It's got, the friction brake on this side, obviously. And on this side, there's nothing. There's a plate right here that you would think, oh, well, I could just turn the plate. Well, that plate doesn't do anything. So you got to undo the screw right here. It comes out, and it's actually got a spring in there, so you've got to hold it out while you're turning. And I think this one's up as well. Get it turned up, and it comes out. Now, that's just got a silver ring on the inside. There's nothing to it. It's not silver, brass. It's a brass ring. Well, if you look here, it's got pins in there. Now, it kind of tells you what it is or what it does or anything like that, but is it necessarily 100% accurate? I don't know. I just play with it until I get it right. So on these, you just push them in or out, and it's kind of hard to show you right now, and they're real dirty so you can't see them. But if you look on the end of one of those that says pitch, it's got a red thing sticking out the top. So what that does is when you can push them out and they engage that brass ring. And then there's some that are just on springs that when you throw it, the centrifugal force of the spool spinning forces them out, and they grip against this to slow the reel down to try and keep it from backlashing. So you just got to play with those and say, okay, well, how many do I need down? Well, it's going to depend on what kind of lure you're running. Some of them you may need them all down. Some of them you may only need one or two. My rule of thumb is keep them equal. Don't just put one out on one side. I put 1 and 1 or 4. I always go in twos. I don't ever just do one. But I don't really have many like this, and I'm not a huge Abu fan, so I don't have a lot that are set up like that. Next is one of the more complicated ones. It's a Shimano. Of course, friction brake on this side. But if you look here, there's a dial right there. That dial is right there. So it goes, I think, 1 through 5, I'm not sure. But it's making adjustments as well. But there's more to it than just that dial. And a lot of people don't know that. So if you'll open the door up right here, and when you flip it to open, it just pops out and it's on a hinge, just like that. So if you look in here at this spool, it has rubber stops, and on those rubber stops are plastic flaps. So if you fold them up, those plastic flaps go up on the spool and they sit up just like that. If you pop it down, ooh, where's that? there we go, then it's engaging the spool. So either up or down. I've got all mine down. It just seems to work best for me. Again, you'll have to play with it. So again, I like to try and keep them even. That's up to you. So once you get those down, those are your centrifugals. I think what you're doing here, whenever you're tightening this down, more or less, is you're moving this face plate either in or out. Very, very small. I'm not 100% on that. You have to do your own research on it. But once you get it set, they're usually pretty good. But like I said, this one's a little more cumbersome to set up. So you've got your friction brake on this side, you've got the dial here, and then of course you could take the side plate off. I had a hard time setting this reel up just because I wasn't paying attention to that, and I was just messing with this. I was like, man, I can't get it tuned, and finally I realized I could pop that side plate off, and all of those were up, every one of them. And when I put them all down, made life a lot easier. And then we've got this bad boy. This one is one that is, in my mind, it was hard to set up in the beginning, but once I got him set up, he could absolutely sling it. I've had this reel for a long, long time. This is one of the very first smokes they come out with, Quantum Smoke. I used to be nothing but a Quantum guy. So let's look at how it's set up. Centrifugal, obviously, and I like it because it's got clicks. I just like clicky things. It makes clicky sounds, and it makes me feel good. So, and then the side clicks as well. It's just a super clicky reel. I like it. I like clicky things. So, let's talk about how it's set up. It's got a button right here that you slide that gets you into the face plate. And I can't remember which way it turns. Down. It turns down. So, it turns down and comes out here. Now, let's look off in there. There's just a butt ton of those centrifugals in there. There's a lot. None of them are adjustable or anything like that. I wouldn't say this is a simple setup because you can't get in there and adjust them. So, I mean, setting up the reel, it really is kind of simple, but I'm talking about how hard something is based on, or how simple or how difficult it is to set up based on how long it took me to figure out what was going on with it. So in the end, this one was a little bit harder for me to get dialed in, but once I figured out what I was doing with it, and it may have been because it was one of my first really nice reels back in the day. So now, would I put it on this end of the spectrum? Not necessarily. I'd probably put it down here on this end. But like I said, back in the day, brand new fisherman, it threw me for a loop. So if you're a brand new guy, I'm not telling you not to get one of these higher end reels. I'm just telling you what I had to do to get them set up and how I had to do that. So again, like I said, let's go back over it real quick. Got a brand new reel straight out of the box, you put it on there. And let's say it's this one here. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to crank the magnets down to 10. All the way, turned all the way up. Then I'm going to mess with my centrifugal brake until when I click it, the lure falls out the end, goes down, hits the ground, and it doesn't backlash. It just does something about like that. See that? I'm snatching it, and it's not backlashing. So I'm going to do something about like that with it. And then I'm going to make some casts. Now your first cast, probably not going to be good at all. First cast, if it's real short, but it feels like you're getting good at the beginning, like, you know, you let it go and you're like, oh, that's going to go, and then it just stops real quick, falls down. Start backing off on your magnetic. No, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Make a cast. Oh, that's a little better. Oh, that's a little better. All right, now I'm starting to backlash at the end of my cast. Go back up one, and then start working on your centrifugal here, backing it off, backing it off, backing it off. Eventually, you're going to get it to where it's a happy medium for you, and it's perfect. So, I hope these videos helped you out. Like I said, there's different types of brakes, centrifugal, magnetic. Do your own research. When you get a reel, don't be afraid to take it apart. Most of them are going to be free spool straight from the factory. What is free spool? No friction based, no centrifugals, no magnetics, no nothing. So when you cast it the first time, if you've got brand new line on there, it's just gonna bird nest up on you and you're gonna be out of luck. So get your reel, tune it right, go practice in the yard before you hit the water with it. That way you're not upset when you get on the water and have a huge bird nest and now you're done for the day. What would be a tip I would give a brand new guy first time? Oh, my wife just got me a brand new bait caster and a rod. I'm going out to the lake. Take you some extra line with you and something to cut line off with. You're probably going to get frustrated. You are going to backlash. Backlashing never ends. It's not something where you get so good it just goes away. You're going to backlash constantly. It's just a thing. Once you start getting good enough to where you're not backlashing a lot, you need to start trying to cast in more difficult spots. You need to start trying to skip. Start trying to put baits in places nobody else does. Then you're going to start backlashing again because you're focused on harder to reach areas and you're making a more difficult cast. So if you're not backlashing, you're not learning. If you're not learning, you're not catching fish. So go out there, have some fun with it, guys. I hope this helps y'all on setting up your reels. Like I said, Christmas time's coming around. Go out there. Don't be afraid to go and get you a good, nice reel, even if it sounds complicated. It's just figuring it out. Take it easy, guys. Have a good day.